Put your hands together for Tiffany Joubert.
Now, if I haven't met you, don't worry. I will find you, and I will ask you to coffee. Now, that being said, there's probably a good chance if you haven't met me that you've seen me at one, maybe two events around Volusia County. Maybe you've heard she lived in South Africa for a while. Maybe you heard she brought her husband home as a souvenir. Maybe you heard she is a great dancer. All those things are true, and they are great stories, and I love to tell them over coffee. This story, although graphic, this story is a warning to never become familiar. I was 23 the first time that I landed in Africa. I stepped off the plane in a small country called Namibia, just above South Africa, where I would be spending my summer working at a wildlife sanctuary. I was 23 the first time that I saw an African sunset, colors hand-painted by God in the sky that you cannot even imagine. When I arrived at the sanctuary, I was loaded up into the back of a truck, driven out into the middle of nowhere where I was surrounded on four sides by enclosures. I was also 23 the first time I heard the Afrikaans language. It's a language in which Dutch and German had a baby, and that baby throws up hairballs. The project manager got out of the truck and he yelled, "Zion!" in which a full-grown male lion, seen here, sauntered up to the fence. I want to give you some context. From head to toe, a full-grown male lion is about 4 feet tall. From head to tail, he's anywhere from 10 to 13 feet long, and his roar can be heard 5 to 7 miles away. Zion rubbed his head up against the fence and let out a little chuff. And the project manager said, buddy, you can do better than that. And as if knowing that Zion was on stage just for me, he opened his mouth, revealing his 3-inch canines, and let out a noise. A noise that started in the tip of my toes and rose up my body, landing in my heart. And as the females joined in unison around me, tears ran down my eyes and a core memory was formed. You don't just hear a lion roar, you feel it. I later asked the project manager, where did Zion come from? And he let me know that he was bred for the bullet. I said, as not to sound stupid. He quickly saw through that. He let me know that he came from a canned hunting facility. A canned hunting facility is where lions are bred. Volunteers pay to play with them. They're raised and they become used to humans. And they're released into a small area. And then from me to the front row, a big hunter comes and he's fooled because he thinks he has a great shot. And the lion thinks he's getting a snack. Why? I asked him. I don't know, mostly for the bones, he said. Asian traditional medicine suggests that we can use animal parts to help cure our ailments. Tiger bone is soaked in wine and then drank to help cure arthritis and osteoporosis and prolong life, so much so that this ancient tradition is literally drinking tigers to death. Poachers can't get their hands on tigers anymore, so they're traveling to Africa, where they are shooting lions inside and outside of the breeding facilities. So much so that lion numbers have dropped 44% in 2 decades. This slide is from last year. There's 23,000 left. The wildlife trafficking industry is a $25 billion crime syndicate, rating high among human trafficking and drugs. Every animal you see up here is used for their body in one point or another. But you are probably most familiar with the plight of the rhino. Touch your hair and your nails. Touch it. That's called keratin, the same thing that makes up rhino horn, which is ground up and snorted and believed to help cure erectile dysfunction. For $600,000, you too can have 1 kilogram. It only cost him his entire life. I want to slow down for a second, though. Take a breath. I want you to think of your favorite sound. Is it someone saying, "I love you"? Maybe it's the sound of a storm. Hold that. Because the wildlife trafficking industry also includes the illegal pet trade. Those are Burmese python in Miami. Remember, I told you that this is the story of a warning. Here's the warning. Go back to that sound. Don't forget it. We have become so complacent that we forget memories that we've made, where we get to live, that we can go buy a cheeseburger after this. People, we have become familiar with school shootings. And as you look into this lion's eyes, whether or not you are an animal lover, I am begging you to start making change and stop with the excuses. Start small. Do some research before you get a pet. And don't become familiar with the things that I've told you today. Because in case you're wondering, I was 23 the first time I heard my favorite sound. And at the rate we're going, by 2050, you guys will never get to hear it.